Hi, my name is David Fletcher. Some of you may know me, but most of you probably won't. That's not even really the point right now. Here's a little something that you may not know, or that you may know. Joseph Biden actually selected his vice presidential nominee. Senator Kamala Harris from the state of California was really known for being really strict on law and order. Most recently was a bit of a shark when it came to grilling millionaires, billionaires. And the reason that I'm reporting this, the reason why I'm saying it the way I'm saying it is that you just have to kind of think about it for just a second, how ironic all of this is. We had a president, Bill Clinton, who I'm not my favorite president, but who did such a great job at being president that they decided that they needed to have an anti-Bill Clinton. The people decided that the best choice would be the most Republican that ever could republic in George W. Bush, legacy Bush, and all of that there, right? He was elected once and was president for 2 terms. And due to the lack of competency, they decided that we will pick anybody who can save us from this. Even you. What's your name? What's your name? Barack. Well, I mean, that's probably fine. I mean, maybe we could kind of shorten that to Barry or something. And yes, they did try to abbreviate his name to Barry. What's your last name? Obama. You got a middle name? Hussein. Oh my God, he's very qualified. We got to bite the bullet on this. He picked Joseph Biden, who we just talked about earlier. And this man was his vice president for 2 terms. He was able to make a lot of great progress and even, made healthcare accessible to people who would have never gotten it. They termed it Obamacare and the people hated it. They were so mad. Not that he did a terrible job as being a president of the United States, but we all know what it was about because he was black and he was president. He was in charge. And a lot of black people became more confident than they've ever become because we never thought, and I mean never thought, that it would happen. They were so enraged by the fact that black people began to believe they could be somebody and that a black person was in charge of the entire country. A country where black people used to be slaves, but that he was actually running the joint with his African-American wife. At this point, the most accomplished first lady to ever grace the White House. I'm sorry, that's Dr. Michelle Obama. You want to know what's funny about all of that? They went and got Donald Trump, somebody who represented their rage. Because if you really just look at a president generally reflects the attitudes of the country. Democratic voters were so upset at the way that Bernie Sanders was treated that they decided not to show up to the ballots. Republican voters were very upset at the fact that he was black and he was president. And there were some who just wanted to get a man that they knew were going to fix taxes in their favor and loopholes and free money and all of that. Donald John Trump, a man who has absolutely no experience, had no reason to have that job. This was the very first job he ever got hired to do, and it was president of the United States of America. Yeah, that America. We got exactly the representation of the country. He was an absentee president, barely did his job, was racist, and he enriched himself off of the office. To quote Ben Carson, it's only going to be 4 years. What's the worst that could happen? Let's see. He signed several executive orders. He closed borders to people who were coming from, as he liked to put it, shithole countries, full of brown and black people. Dog whistled to a bunch of neo-Nazis. There was this whole thing with tiki torches. There was a Charlottesville thing. Heather Heyer lost her life standing up for others. I mean, there have been so many deaths that you almost lose count. It's almost like there needs to be some sort of memorial of just the people who died just trying to say that Black Lives Matter. George Floyd, that happened. Plenty. I'm talking about the public executions of African Americans skyrocketed under his presidency. The economy cratered. The stock market tanked this year. What else happened? What else happened? There have been several lawsuits that have been brought against the president. He's been impeached. He's been indicted and settled lawsuits for sexual harassment. He tear gassed a group of people in front of a church with the parishioners, the person who basically was the pastor of this church, so that he could take a picture in front of the church with a Bible that I'm surprised didn't burn the very skin off of his hands just by coming into physical contact with that much evil. All because the last president was black, cracked a joke, he took it offensively, and he decided that he was going to run for president as a lark, as a business deal, got fired for being a racist by NBC from The Apprentice. So he didn't really have a job. He had to make it happen. He had to become president. And he put everything he had behind it. And it almost, in a way, was screwing up so badly you would think that he was throwing it and trying not to win. And he won anyway. Why? Because Hillary Clinton just couldn't help but being an arrogant prick of a woman and not visiting states that she should have visited just because they always vote blue. So there's no reason for me to even show up. So guess what? The voters didn't show up. Sure didn't. Yeah, she blew a hand-it-to-me victory. And we got a president that has spiraled our country into a civil war. I wouldn't say it's a civil war, but all the people who are protesting peacefully, Black Lives Matter, have just been getting beat up and shot. Not really a war, it's more of a massacre, a slaughter. Barack Obama was the first African American president of the United States. He was the first and the youngest president of the Harvard Law Review, community organizer, lawyer for a time, was a congressman for the state of Illinois, and a senator for the United States representing Illinois. Then he became president. He served 2 successful terms. In spite of the fact that John Boehner, let's not forget him, and Mitch McConnell did everything to obstruct anything good he was going to do for you, the American people. Not because they wanted to have something better in place, but just because they didn't want anything to be tied to the legacy of a black man in the White House, because they wanted to make sure it never happened again. They wanted to make sure it failed. It was outright racism. They've been in politics for a very long time, so they know how to make things a point without saying them. Because if they said them, then they could lose because nobody will publicly back a racist. But as long as I can deny that you're a racist and get what I want, I'll vote for you. There's no other way that Mitch McConnell would have stayed in office as long as he did. Here's the point I was getting to. Barack Obama was an African-American male born in Hawaii. He made all these accomplishments happen with Harvard Law. Kamala Harris graduated from Howard University as a double major in political science and economics. That's right. HBCU, where she protested social injustices and where she became a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the very first African American sorority. And so in retaliation for the racism and the prejudice of having a black man in the White House, you will now have from the vice president of that same president, a president who selected the first female that will become vice president, the first African American to be appointed vice president, the first Asian American, because she is half Indian, Middle Eastern, to occupy any office between president and vice president, and the first woman. Let me break that down again. Kamala Harris will be the first woman, African American, Asian, vice president. In And even right now, she's already made history as being the first African American vice presidential nominee, the second female nominee, and the first Asian nominee. So, in retaliation of voting an African American male as president of the United States, in a roundabout way, you've made it so that there's no other recourse but to now have a heartbeat away from the presidency an African American, Asian American woman. 3 of a few groups that it seems some voters don't want to represent them, but will. How badly do you want to play this? After she's out of the office, and I'm pretty sure at some point, once she gets the hang of everything as a vice president, she'll be a shoo-in as a president of the United States because her record is stellar and she carries herself very well. Very professional. We're going to try this again. You're going to put a Klansman in the White House, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to get, you know what? Try it if you want to, and we will have the first Jewish president of the United States, and he will select a bisexual atheist, and that's the way we're going to go with it. Keep playing around if you want to, or maybe, I don't know, we could put away the racist politics, and maybe, just maybe, we can just elect people who are qualified for the office and not somebody that we find entertaining. I think that comedy has its place, and maybe Donald Trump missed his calling as a conservative comedian with the likes of Dennis Miller or some sort, Adam Carolla. But comedy has very little place in politics. Yes, there is a little roast here and there's times where you have a little levity, you have a little joke here and there. But I should not be watching an open mic stand-up comic going out there and using buzzwords to try and basically cater to a baked-in audience that's already his fans because he knows he couldn't kill it out there. It's sick. It's like if a comedian performed at the same club for the last 4 years, but would never go into another club because they know he would get booed out of the building because he's terrible. He's awful. He's not funny. There's a lot of things that I don't want to say on this video, but I believe I've said enough. So congratulations, Biden-Harris 2020. And thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America.